thank you guys for coming today. I'm going to go ahead and get started. We're going to be talking about how to grow Bible Bowl in your area. Before we get started, my name is Ben Cool. I'm a software engineer. I attend Southeast Christian Church in Louisville, Kentucky. I've played Bible Bowl for 2.5 years. My siblings played before that. I'm the youngest of 4, so we go a ways back. I was a sponsor for 2 years, and my wife Megan and I have been directing the Southeast program for 4 years. This past year, we started a round robin up in Louisville again. So let's talk about what we're going to be talking about today. First, we're going to be talking about when it comes to outreach, who does what. So if you're on the board, if you run a round robin, if you are a coach, if you're a parent, what do you do? We're going to talk about what we've been doing in the Louisville area. We've been up to a lot, and we wanted to present and share some of that information with you guys in hopes that you would learn from our mistakes and learn from our successes. We're also going to talk about what we've used and what's available to you. There are folders on your tables that actually I don't think you guys have any. Here's one. There are folders on your tables that have some of the material I'm going to go over. I'm also going to go over some more material that's not available there.
I was going to say, do you have...
Thanks. Sure. And then I'm going to talk about what you can do in your area and what I would recommend based on our experience. First, you need to understand that this is all my opinion. I'm a software engineer. I'm not a marketing expert. Louisville is not the hot spot of Bible Bowl right now, but this is all my opinion. This is not associated. Josiah hasn't looked over these slides. No one else has other than Megan. So just wanted to get that out there. So let's talk about who does what. There's the national director and the board. These people should have a national perspective. This means that from the perspective, like in regards to outreach, they need to look at the nation as a whole and determine what do people need, where can we target, what resources can we offer in regards to like brochures, flyers. Are there conferences we can attend to attract youth ministers and other churches to be interested in launching Bible Bowl? Reducing the barrier to entry, making Bible Bowl easier to get started, making it a game that's easier to understand. Round robin coordinators. It is your job to focus on the regional perspective. We have started a round robin in Louisville. One of the reasons we wanted to do that was to help grow the Louisville area. It's very difficult to get new teams started in Louisville when we have to drive 2.5 hours to a round robin for them to really see what we do. So even though we enjoyed the competition, loved the level of gameplay, we made that decision so that we could provide that opportunity for people in our area. It is also your responsibility, I believe, to facilitate opportunities for people to invite other people to check out your round robin. Because I think as a round robin, like it's easy to get focused on, oh, we're playing games, let's focus on getting through Saturday or getting through Sunday whenever you run your round robin. But when you look back at this past year, what did you do to facilitate ways for new people to get started with Bible Bowl? Did you do anything? What was successful? What wasn't? Program directors and sponsors. I think it is very important that we have a very local perspective. Now, for a lot of people, you may be the only program in your area. You drive 2.5 hours to a round robin. So local may mean your whole city. I would hope that we would all have that perspective. For others, you may be in an area, Indianapolis has a lot more teams. There's a lot more knowledge of Bible Bowl. So with local, there's more people to kind of share some of that responsibility. But either way, I think it's very important that we are focusing on providing opportunities for players to invite friends, for other people to come check out practice, see what we do, see why we do what we do. And I think it's also very important that we do everything we can to support any round robin checkout initiatives. So if the round robin says, hey, we're going to host an event from 10 a.m. to noon on Saturday, we're going to buy everybody lunch, we're going to go through this, dive in full force to support them in every way you can. It is very depressing to host an event and have no one show up. And it is a waste of resources. So we need to make sure that we're, as leaders, as sponsors, encouraging our players and supporting that in every way we can. It is not National Bible Bowl's responsibility to grow your program. I kind of had that perspective a couple years ago. Robert was brought on board as the outreach director, and I thought, oh, well, that'll be great. We can drive down to Louisville. We're only 45 minutes away, and help us out. You know, that I've since realized that that's just not going to work. You know, Josiah doesn't know the Louisville area like Megan and I know the Louisville area, like our sponsors know the Louisville area. And the same applies to all of you guys as well. You know your area, you know the challenges, some of them, and you need to be the ones, you're going to be that local leadership that's going to be coming alongside them, helping them. So you need to be the one handling that outreach. So let's talk about how we do it. The good news is there's no rules. There's no, here's a recipe to having 4 new teams in your area in the fall. The bad news is there's no rules, there's no recipe, there's no secret sauce. Which begs the question, why am I here? Because this talk was about growing Bible Bowl in your area. So if I'm saying I'm not going to be able to exactly tell you how to do that, why am I here wasting my time? Well, I'm here for several reasons. I think that, for one, we all know that growing Bible Bowl is very difficult. It is very challenging to talk to somebody about getting involved for 8 to 10 months out of the year to commit to something like Bible Bowl. It's difficult because we have to try to get them to understand the game. It comes with a lot of challenges. And I think it's very important that as sponsors, as program directors, as board members, that we are talking about this. This needs to be part of our culture, part of nationals, part of round robins as we come together. We need to be having conversations about what works, what doesn't work. You know, did we do something that a lot of people expressed a lot of interest in and we got a lot of good feedback? You know, sometimes we have conversations about what we do during practice and that really helps. We need to be doing the same things with outreach. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you guys today. And also, of course, wanted to share our experience in the Louisville area. So let's talk about that. Last year at Nationals, we did what we call a checkout event, which our objective was to invite as many people as we can, having Nationals in our city, to come see Bible Bowl. Josiah gave us 30 minutes, I don't know, however long, an hour or whatnot, to use a room. And so we kind of did a bit of a blitzkrieg leading up to that to invite as many people as we could. So we had 7 days of radio ads on a local Christian radio station promoting the event. We ran 4 weeks of a 1/8 page printed ad in the Southeast Outlook Church newspaper. I think that has like 50,000 subscribers, something like that. So there was a lot of outreach there. We did 131 mailings to churches, Christian schools, and more in the area. We went on Google Maps and looked for Christian churches, Baptist churches, Christian schools, looked up the Bible teachers at those schools, tried to target and focus that as much as we could on people we thought might be interested. We passed out 100 personal invitations to our players, to their parents, little postcards they could take with them. You guys have some of these examples in your folders in front of you. We also did 2 booths at Christian homeschool conferences and fairs. And while like at Southeast, we have a lot of homeschoolers in our programs, and Bible Bowl's not targeted for homeschoolers. Of course, we want anyone and everyone we can to play, but it is a good resource that we wanted to reach out to because a lot of homeschoolers' parents can see it as a Bible curriculum, which they're going to end up buying those resources anyway and investing time in that. Why not play Bible Bowl?
Can I add something on that screen?
Sure.
In our round robin, one of the churches that participates is in a very tiny town, but they kind of went for something like this, and they sent the invitation to every church in their town, regardless of denomination, because we're supposed to be a non-denominational program. We have churches in our round robin now we have a Baptist church. I brought them here to be internationals with me for the first year.
Awesome.
So that's something to think about too, is maybe reaching out because Bible is supposed to be non-denominational.
Sure.
And broadening that perspective, I think, is
Sure.
good.
So this is all great, but at the end of the day, it's all about what works, right? I mean, if we did all this and nobody showed up, what value is that? So we surveyed people who came, and we got in contact with people. Out of the 7 days of local radio ads, we didn't end up with contact information for anyone who was interested. Out of 4 weeks of the printed ad, we had one name, and they played with us this past year. Out of the 131 mailings, we had 3 contacts. Out of the 100 invitations, we had 3 other contacts. And out of the 2 booths, we had 21 contacts. And these 21 contacts vary from people who are interested in joining a team, people who didn't want to join Southeast, didn't attend Southeast, but maybe wanted to join, maybe wanted to start it up at their homeschool group. They were interested on various levels. I think we had 1 or 2 names of people who went to Christian schools. I think we had a dean of a Christian school stop by who was interested in starting them in his campuses. So we see the booths as a fantastic return on investment. And I'm going to go into a little more about what it costs to do something like that. But booths were also the highest level of personal interaction because it allowed us to present things in a controlled way. So it's not to just hand them a rule book and say, yeah, here's how you play, or have a player try to explain to his friend. You know, a 7th grader trying to explain the game to somebody is going to be very difficult. And we've also determined we're going to try to have booths every year in the Louisville area. Now, it is important, there is value in some of these other radio ads, the 1/8 page printed ad, the churches, the mailing, stuff like that, because there's a rule of 7 when it comes to marketing where somebody needs to hear something 7 times in order to really understand what you're trying to communicate. The first time they don't trust you, they have no idea who you are, they're thinking, why does this person have the right to talk to me? The second time, they still don't trust you, and so on until consistent exposure helps break down those barriers and kind of builds a relationship. That's marketing 101 from Googling.
What time of year were those conferences?
June. Yeah, the homeschool stuff, from what I understand, tends to wrap up late May and June before the parents kind of disconnect and are done with school till it starts in the fall. But so from what I understand, they tend to buy a lot of their resources for the next year at the tail end of the previous year.
Some of those conventions are as early as February, March as well.
So it's definitely worth checking out because I was thinking that it was all in July because that's right before school, but learned very quickly that was not the case. So in regards to the resources that are available, this is the newspaper ad that we used. I didn't realize this was so blurry. Let's see if we can clean that up. So this is the 1/8 page newspaper ad. All of the resources I'm going to go through, the raw Photoshop files, there's high-res and low-res PDFs, are available at the URL in the bottom of the slide, wiki.biblebowl.net/marketing. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the wiki later, so we'll get to that. So this ad we put together is an invitation to the checkout event at Nationals. It's got a very brief description, bullet points of what benefits of Bible Bowl, things like that. When and where our checkout event is, a QR code to take people to biblebowl.net. And this is a great printed resource for any kind of advertisement, whether it be a church flyer or a newspaper, something like that. There are also postcard invitations that we mailed. So the front has a couple pictures, very quick, you are invited, brief description. On the back, there's a spot for name, address of the recipient. We uploaded a CSV to Vistaprint, and Vistaprint took care of all the mailing and everything for us, which was great. This is awesome because it can be mailed, and it can be very easily sent to a mailing list.
You gave them a specific mailing list?
They have so we compiled the 131 names off of Google, and that's the mailing list we gave them. This is the postcard handout. When we talked about the handout invitation we gave to players to invite their friends, We had the postcards printed up. So this is postcard size, but there's no room on the back for mailing address or anything like that. It was printed with the name and location of the event for people to pass out and an email address for them to RSVP. This is great because players can give it to their friends, parents can give it to other parents, and when we did homeschool booths, we could hand these out to people as they were walking by because they're there to shop at the homeschool booths. So if we can hand them that, give them that first exposure, they can walk away and look at it later. They can know when and where our event is and a little bit about it. For us, this ran on Vistaprint at the time about $45 for 250 of these to be printed up, to give you a price point. And that includes having them shipped to us. So we also put together full-page flyers. There was a checkout invitation. And I believe you guys have one of these in your folders as well. I may be wrong on that. But so this contains when and where for the checkout event, details to RSVP, and brief description of Bible Bowl, some imagery and stuff to go along with that. The benefit of this flyer is this does not have to be professionally printed. This is designed to be printed on any color printer. So it's literally a PDF you can download and print. Right now, all of these templates have our contact information and like the exact way that we used them. I'd be more than happy to edit those with whatever changes anybody else would like for your local area. This is also a great tool to post on Craigslist because you can save this as a PDF, post it on Craigslist and say, see the attached flyer. We had a Christian school post this on their website as part of the announcement to come check out Bible Bowl. And it's a great, clean, professional way to handle that. It's also we also use this to hand out at churches. There were several churches that we approached and asked to put stacks of flyers where all their youth materials are. We also had to start a team flyer. Our objective is not to grow the Southeast program. Our objective is to grow Bible Bowl, is to spread the word. And if we were just trying to grow our program, that's great, but that's really not going to be the best thing long term. It really needs to be exponential to where other teams get started. Those teams start other teams, and then we all grow and have great competition in the local area together. So we included a flyer for starting a team. It talks about who is needed to start a team, the time commitment involved, and a little bit about the study resources and the cost associated with that. This is good information to have on hand. This can also be downloaded, same as the other resources. And I believe there is a sample of this in the folder in front of you as well. These were designed to be professionally printed. I've got a large stack of them up here. And at any time, you can request these, and Josiah will send them to you. We also had some trifold brochures made up. And these have some testimonials on the back. They've got some benefits of Bible Bowl, cover a little bit of the same material, but not from they talk a little bit about like what is Bible Bowl, who can play, how do you play, and how do I get started. It's intended to be a very broad overview, something that if somebody's going to a booth or some quick information, you can just hand it to them. They can check it out later. This is good for setting out at a church. A lot of churches have those racks where you put all those trifold flyers and things like that. This is also good for that. And of course, passing out at a booth. These are also available by request from the National Bible Bowl office. So let's talk, that's an overview on some of the resources we used. Let's talk a little bit more about how we do this, how we reach out. The way I see it, there are two parts. Part one is generating interest and telling people about Bible Bowl. It's very outreach focused. It's let's generate, like how many people in Louisville know about Bible Bowl? I don't know what that number is, but I can tell you it's definitely increased over the past 2 years through all the efforts we've gone through. So maybe some of those people we've talked to who had a third grader or had a fifth grader, maybe they'll play with us in 4 years. Maybe they won't. Maybe at some point they will know somebody that will. Either way, even though they may not be playing now, we've still added value to the knowledge of Bible Bowl in the Louisville area. And that may come back to reward us. That may come back later. The second part of that is when people are interested, we need to mentor them. It's not just, okay, well, you need a buzzer board, you need some of this software, you need a study text, and memorize that, and then show up to round robin. It's a little bit more, there's a lot more to that. The game is complicated. There's a whole lot to it. The rule book's like 20 pages now, I think. So you don't want to hand them a rule book and say, good luck. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. We need to come alongside them and help them get started. So with the outreach, all of the efforts that we do in the Louisville area that I believe we all should target is to fill out this request for information form. So the idea behind this form is in Louisville with all of our efforts, we try to get this information from somebody. This is our guide. We try to populate this list. So we find out what church they go to. Maybe they go to Southeast. It's a big church. I don't know everybody. Maybe they go to Highview, which is down the street from us, a couple blocks over. Maybe we have 4 people who go to Highview. We can say, oh, great. Let's sit down with all you guys. Let's talk about starting a team at Highview. You've got a team. Get their email address, phone number, of course, so we can contact them. We also want to know, how much do they really understand the game? Some people are going to see it and go, oh, I've seen something similar. I get this. Some people are going to be like, I've never seen anything like this. So they have an option to circle whether they want to see a demo game, whether they're potentially interested in starting a team, joining a team, whether they are interested in participating on the 3rd through 5th grade level or the 6th through 12th grade level, which is a key element because that points out whenever we reach out, we're not just focusing on teen. We need to be focusing on beginner as well if you have beginner available in your area. Because that is an opportunity with the games becoming more and more alike, with beginner being more of a gateway to Teen Bowl and it being so much more similar. We have such an opportunity to explain the game once and say, oh, well, there's a simpler version available for the younger age, and then here's the full version available for teen. In Louisville, what this looks like, because Megan and I work with Bible Bowl, and Bruce Jones works with Beginner Bowl. So anytime Bruce does anything that anybody is interested in teen, he passes that along to us. Anytime anybody expresses interest in beginner, we pass that off to him. And it's a fantastic way for us to communicate and keep track of that. We use this list, we build this list over time. So last year we ended up, I told you at Nationals how we had that slide that had however many contacts. I think it was like 29 or something, 27. We keep those in a list and reach out to those at the beginning of every season. And we say, hey, we're starting. Do you want to learn more? Do you want to get involved? It's a great way for us to follow up because they've given us permission. They've given us their email address, their phone number. They've expressed interest. And so it's a good way for us to follow up. And maybe last year wasn't a good time. Maybe this year will be. The idea with outreach should be to build an ever-growing list of people in your area so that you can get people connected down the road. Because even if you have one person at one church down the street and there's no one else there you've talked to that's interested, maybe next year you'll talk to 3 other people that go to that same church and it'll allow you to connect them. So the booth at the homeschool convention, this was tough. But I think it was tough to figure out, but I think we figured out a really good way to do this, and I highly recommend you guys dive into this in your area with any kind of homeschool convention. So what we had at the booth was got a black tablecloth off Amazon for $20, put a buzzer board, brochures. We had a banner made up, which was $60. Set a big bowl of candy out there for $15. Had some plastic flyer stands and things for $12 to make it easy. This whole booth, minus the computer on the end, ran $107. So the materials here was $107. That does not include the cost of printing because that stuff's already available to you guys. So you could literally recreate this, banner and all, for $107 for your local area. And I'm sure you guys could figure out some ways to do it better and some ways to do it cheaper. Again, my point here is let's talk about it and figure it out together. We also made sure we had toss-ups available, but we didn't put those out because we don't want people to see toss-ups and be like, whoa, what is this? We did have one or two parents that were very like, oh yeah, we've done quick recall, we've done stuff like this, this is right up their alley, and they like, do you have any questions I can see? What we would show them is a category toss-up. We didn't expose them to keywords or try to explain that, but that allowed us to show there's a header, there's 10 points, there's a bonus when they give the correct answer. It's a very simple question. But again, our objective with this was not to explain the game. And if they wanted to know more, we said, well, come see a demo game and stuff like that. I don't have this listed, but we also had an open text on the booth so that people could see what the players are studying and have that visual element as well. The candy, Megan had the great idea of using the candy, because the kids want the candy, of course, that when they came up, she would require them to answer a question about the Bible before giving them a piece of candy to show their parents what their kids know and show the kids they can do it. And so she would say, something from Genesis that all the players would know and be like, buzz in and answer, and when they asked the question and when they got it right, whether they got it right or not, she would give them a piece of candy. But the point is, it was some great opportunity for some interaction. Now, to that point, this was not a set it and forget it booth. People are not going to walk by, they're very unlikely to walk by, pick up a brochure and call you later. It's very important to have somebody there who can explain it, because whenever you walk up to any product or anything you're thinking about buying, you immediately have questions, concerns, and you're a lot more likely to buy into it if there's somebody there to talk to help answer those. So for us, we had some parents volunteer, like one of these booths was like 8 hours. We had several people volunteer to sign up or volunteer to be there for a couple hours. So it wasn't just one person taking a day off work all day, maybe 2-hour shifts, whatever something like that would look like. The booth space, I believe, at this homeschool fair and convention, or in particular, I think it was around $50 to $100. So, over time, if you look at we're building a list, there is money involved. There's got to be on some level. Yeah.
To that point, given the anonymous donors fund and the money we have for outreach, if you're interested in doing a booth somewhere, get a hold of me and maybe I will help with some of the costs, especially with not necessarily with the booth materials, but specifically focusing more the registration costs of these events. So get a hold of me.
Okay. So there's, for anybody who might not have heard that, there's contact National Bible Office if you need help with money covering the cost of renting space to put a booth up. And with the matching donation that's going on right now, they might be able to make that happen. So what we also did at these homeschool booths was we invited them to the Nationals checkout event. And the objective was your first exposure is the booth. We're going to talk a little bit about it. We're not going to talk a whole lot about what toss-ups are and how this game is played. We're going to expose it to them a little bit, but we wanted to dive deeper with them. So our follow-up was hosting a checkout event, which we all need to be doing this. It is very difficult. It's, we've run into people before that we try to explain the game to. And what we kind of realized with this was, well, we could explain it to one person, to another person, to another person, or we could just have one event and explain it to everybody at once. People get the opportunity to ask questions. The same reason I'm here talking and you all are here. It would be a lot harder if I was talking to you guys individually. So host a checkout event, whether it be at your round robin, if you're a round robin coordinator, or at your practice, do something, host it somewhere. Ideas for people to target are potential players and their parents, so kids in a youth group, homeschoolers, any outlet you can think of. And I'm sure you all are thinking of some right now in your local area. Christian schools, of course, that's a great extracurricular activity. They might even give kids credit for it. I don't know how that stuff works, but maybe they can. And youth ministers. I do feel like I need to throw out a warning with youth ministers. And there's some chuckles out there, so I'm guessing you guys have run into this too. Youth ministers have their own programs and their own agendas that are important to their church and meet their church's needs. And that is their focus. And Sometimes it can coincide with the curriculum that the adults are doing and things like that. So it is very difficult to talk to a youth minister about starting Bible Bowl because it can be very different. Now, if there are any youth ministers here, which I'm sure there are, you may disagree. That's all right. But from my experience talking with youth ministers, it is generally perceived as another program they have to facilitate. And that's when we approach them, that is not the case. We need to be approaching them with, hey, would you mind if I set some flyers out in the youth building? There's this Bible study that after the kids study the Bible, they ask some questions over the material. It's a lot of fun. We'd like to just try to get some people involved. It's a Bible study. That's what Bible Bowl is. And it's a great way, I think, to explaining it that way is a great way to open the door and help them understand that you're getting their kids involved in like a small group or something. It's not something they have to facilitate. Our objective in the Louisville area is to get the flyers out there, get in contact with players and their parents, and then sell them on it. Because once we've sold them on it, then the parents will go to the youth ministers and be like, hey, we're going to be playing, we need some space. Or should we meet in my house? They're going to kind of have that perspective of once you sell them, then it's just a matter of they need a place to meet. And some of you guys probably meet in your houses. I don't know. You definitely can. So you don't necessarily have to go through youth ministers, but to reach out to their audiences, do it with permission. Don't just walk into a church, drop off flyers, and leave. We also need to be, when you do a checkout event, spread the word in every way possible. Remember that rule of 7. Remember that a lot of people are going to see it, and they're not going to come the first time. You may have one person. You may have nobody show up. We've been there, done that. But we've been prepared nonetheless, and we're going to do it again and again and again and again. So we highly recommend contacting churches and requesting permission to put out flyers. Homeschool mailing list is a great way. We have several homeschoolers that play with us, and they post on their homeschool loop that, hey, we're doing a checkout event. You might want to do this as a Bible Bowl or as a Bible curriculum. Come check it out. A personal recommendation goes a very long way. Don't underestimate that. Also offer incentives for players to invite friends. Maybe it's candy. Maybe it's a $5 gift card. I don't know. What incentivizes your players? Is it movie tickets? It's, if a 6th grader is going to be incentivized by candy, whereas a senior is going to be like, oh, I've got a job. I'll go buy my own candy. They want like movie tickets or something like that. So keep in mind, gift cards. So keep in mind who you're incentivizing and how you're incentivizing them. And by all means, have an agenda on what you're going to talk about. Don't just, we need to be organized, and you will have the most success when you're organized, and you will explain things the way you want to when you're organized. And I think we should put thought into how we explain Bible Bowl and approach things in a good way so as we're prepared to answer questions, because people are going to have a lot of questions. Talk about why to play Bible Bowl. You all are here. I didn't cover why to play Bible Bowl for a reason. I think Bill did a good job of that last night, and everybody has their own reasons or you wouldn't be here. Taking vacation time, dedicating 200 hours maybe this past year to spending time at practices. Talk about what the game is. Have it in a very simple way. Again, don't slap them with a rule book. In your folders, there's a quick start guide. The objective with this quick start guide is kind of like if you go to Target and you buy the game Sorry and you come home, there's going to be very simple instructions on how to set it up and very simple instructions on how to play. The objective with this quick start guide is the same concept. Somebody can look at the first 2 or 3 pages and sit down and play a game. They're not playing a Division I game, they're not playing at the national tournament, but they can sit down and play a game and experience the fun, and then they can dive deeper into the rule book once they're ready to start contesting. But again, don't hand people that rule book. Have a demo game, and maybe you give them a copy of the toss-ups, maybe you don't. Different different people are going to have a different preference on that. Some people are going to start up here with their understanding of quiz games, and they're going to want to maybe see the toss-ups to follow along. Other people are going to start down here. Maybe the toss-ups would be too much. So maybe just have those available or don't have them available. But definitely have a demo game after you explain the general flow of the toss-ups. And we have a copy of the script that we've used several times that very basically is a very basic way to explain how the questions are asked. I didn't make those available and didn't put that in these folders, but my contact information is in these folders. So if you would like that information, send me an email and I can share that document with you to give you some basis on kind of what we've done. And by all means, cover how to start or join a team. We do think it's very important to always mention how to start a team, because a lot of people are just going to think, yeah, I'd like my kid to play. They're not going to be thinking, yeah, I want to start a team. They want their kids to play. Starting a team is intimidating and it's hard. And so cover it, even if you're talking to one person and they've mentioned joining a team. But don't push it down their throat or anything. But don't skip it either, because it's very important that we cover that. Because even if they play with you one year, they may start a team the next year. So after people have, they come to a checkout event, okay, I'm interested in playing, I'm interested in starting a team. What do we do then? Well, that's where the mentoring comes into play, because we can't just, hand them the resources and good luck. First things first, they need to get connected. They need to be able to know what's going on, when tournaments are happening and things like that. So I think it's very important that the first step be we get them on the email list. Send them to BibleBowl.net or write down their email address and sign them up yourself. Whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you think needs to happen. Communicate to them about the website. Send them to that. That is an excellent resource. The objective with the website is for it to be a digital flyer that you can send somebody the URL if they know nothing about Bible Bowl, and it's not overbearing, but it can communicate what Bible Bowl is and tell them how to start or join a team. Talk to them about the wiki, which I'm going to go into in a minute, as a resource for coaches and players and everybody in Bible Bowl. Also, host, if you're here, you're now experienced. Even if this is your first year, you're now considered a veteran. So every year, at the beginning of the year at Southeast, we've tried to figure out, okay, how do we explain this game to new players? Do we set aside 15 minutes in practice? Do we host a whole other practice? Because we may have 7 new players. Do we have a whole new practice dedicated to just training new players? What we've kind of realized is, everybody goes through this, and it's a difficult, if you have new players, you have to explain the game, and it's difficult to do. And I think it's extra difficult for the players if there's only 1 or 2 of them and they feel kind of very on the spot. Because either one, they're alone sitting there with a sponsor, or they're sitting with a bunch of experienced players and they're afraid to ask questions because they don't want to look dumb or look like they don't understand. So I think it's really important that we try to take training new players and make it a local thing. Maybe 3 or 4 churches get together with all your new players and you say, okay, now let's talk about the game. Because then it's not one-on-one. Maybe you have 3. Maybe you have 5. Maybe you have more. That's fantastic. But it can kind of make it less intimidating. And it can also take the burden off of other people, because only one person is guiding that session. So we're not all sitting back every year thinking, how do we do this? How do we explain this? It's maybe you have one person who does it every year, and that's how they contribute to Bible Bowl. So definitely do that locally and get multiple churches involved. Plus you get connected to know who else is going to be playing at your round robin and all that. For new teams, there's a little bit more. Sponsors need to be trained. They need to know, how do we study the text? Chances are they don't know anything about Bible Bowl either. So I would also encourage you guys to host a regional sponsor training. Maybe that's somebody drives 45 minutes. Maybe they drive 2.5 hours to get there. Again, all the same challenges with new players. Let's do it regionally to take the burden off new teams that get started. Yeah.
We had a couple of times, and it's worked out well, when we had a church kind of expanding, or a couple of new teams come in on the beginner side, we held a quiz master and scorekeeping training session for them. And we let people, we brought in some kids who were experienced and willing to be the teams for them, and let them practice reading questions and learning what it was like to follow the format, so that they wouldn't be so terrified of doing it. Because I think everybody knows, a lot of us have trouble having enough bodies in the room for scorekeeping, timing, boards, and everything
Sure.
else. So we actually had a training event for the parents and grandparents and people who were interested to be able to like run through games with some friendly kids, and show them that it wasn't such a big deal to do that.
Yeah, and I think we need to be doing it. We're going to be doing it, offering it more in the Louisville area too, because again, sponsors don't want to be the one sitting there that doesn't know anything either. So put them with some others, and they'll feel more comfortable. And by all means, whatever it takes to get a new team started. Maybe you go to their practices and help them. Maybe they come to yours. I don't know. But we need to be coming alongside them and saying, because they are expecting to lead their own players. They're going to need help with that. So maybe they come practice with your church for a couple weeks. Maybe you practice Monday night, they practice Tuesday night, so you just go to their practice for the first couple months and help them and guide them. We need to be coming alongside people and easing that burden of coming into Bible Bowl. And that will do it a lot, I think. So, summarize some of the resources that are available. BibleBowl.net is a great digital flyer to send that out. Hopefully you guys are happy with that. Over time, that'll evolve and become an even more useful resource. Wiki.BibleBowl.net, which is a small little link on the bottom of the Bible Bowl site in the footer. That is raise your hand if you've heard of Wikipedia. Okay, the power in Wikipedia is that anybody can post about anything, which sounds like a terrible idea, but it's moderated, and if you're an expert on a subject and somebody posted some information that is incorrect, your blood boils and you will not stand until that gets fixed. And so that's why it's a very trusted source, because contributors build reputation and all that kind of stuff. Anyways, the software that backs that up is backing the BibleBowl.net wiki. It's community driven, meaning anybody can go in, click edit in the top right corner and make changes. But those changes are not live until they're approved. So they'll go through Josiah and he'll approve them and, establish the overall, okay, what should be there, what shouldn't. The objective with the wiki, when you go to the wiki, you'll see IMA and then it'll say player, sponsor, quizmaster. And the idea is you can go and you can click on any one of those and read about things to do during practice. Different types of games, what to do with your players during practice. On the player section, you read about different ways to study. And it's partially populated, but we need help building that out. And it has the potential to be a fantastic resource for people who are getting started. And for us to share our ideas for fundraising, everything. If you're a round robin coordinator, share ideas. So please use that tool and do not hesitate to contribute. The marketing materials are on there as well. On the left-hand side, there's a marketing, I think it just says marketing link. If you click that, you'll see downloads for all the stuff I've gone through. But our most valuable resource is each other. We need to be having these conversations. We need to be talking about what we're doing. We need to be talking about what we're not doing and what we need to be doing. And that is reaching out. Last night we talked a lot about Bible Bowl being here in 10 years. If we don't try to spread it, it's not going to happen. It's not going to grow very easily. We need to be actively trying to grow our areas. All right, thank you guys for listening. These slides are going to be available at bcool.github.io/bbowl-outreach. I know it's a little complicated.
Hey Ben, if they were to give you your email addresses, could you email it to them?
Absolutely.
Or if they were to email you, that might be easier.
Yes. My email, Twitter, and Google Plus is also up here. So however you prefer to communicate. If you have any questions about any of the resources, the wiki, anything like that, please contact me. I would love to help you. Yes?
I was going to suggest one more thing. And I'm thinking about, again, this church that we brought with us to Nationals this year, the first church really didn't mentor them like you're talking about, but one of the things too that, and I know it's kind of hard for people to imagine, but if you've got any kind of an extra buzzer board or a beat up board that they can just use, because oftentimes the equipment is one of the big barriers. When I went to the Johnson tournament recently, and I can't say enough again about the people who ran that, I brought 6 broken buzzer boards to them, and a person at the tournament fixed every single one of them. And I brought 2 from my church that already worked, but now I have boards that the round robin can loan out
Sure.
to churches that
Sure.
are starting until they get on their feet.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
I just want to say thank you for pulling all this together.
Yes.
I love all the promotional material. It looks very professional and well done, and I know that both of you have put a lot of time into
Yes.
that. I appreciate your passion. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Thank you. Yes.
I'm from the Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas Round Robin.
Sure.
And so I'm one of these that, within the, I'm from Council Bluffs, and so within the Council Bluffs, Omaha area, there are a number of churches. Many of them who have had Bible Bowl teams in the past. I mean, so yes, it would be possible for us if we could, and we have tried for years and years to, get some of these churches back in or get some of the new churches and stuff, and we could have a round robin to just in the Omaha Council Bluffs area, no problem. But as it is now, we've got teams scattered across 3 states, and so I was chuckling when you're talking about 2.5 hours. That for us is a short ride. I mean, we're driving, at one we were driving from between Council Bluffs and Wichita. There was like a 6-hour, spread from the teams, and so our teams are spread out. It's hard even regionally to host all these kinds of things that you're talking about, and within the same within the church. I mean, we have a church with an average attendance of First Christian does of almost 2,000 on any given Sunday morning. We have a youth group that a student body that numbers in the hundreds. I mean, there's a large pool and I have tried everything I can think of, and I've had the kids recruiting, I've tried the mailings, I've tried all these things to get even within the own church, a large church. I should be having anywhere from 20 to 24 kids easy in Bible Bowl, and in a church my size. This year is one of the largest groups I've had in several years, and we have 6. I mean, how did the Southeast recruit within your own church or locally to get kids and to overcome all the other things that are going on when you're
Right.
the youth ministers? Because we have that situation
Right.
of constantly scheduling over Bible Bowl stuff with things like street hockey and flag
Sure.
football and all these other things that force these kids to choose.
Yeah.
To do 2 very good things. It's not a matter of.
You guys you're welcome to have people stand here, but the advisory community will start very shortly right over there. So if anyone wants to stay and talk about it, you're more than welcome to stay in this room. It's not scheduled for like another hour, but the advisory committee is about to start right next door.
Okay. That's very tough. Southeast is a mega church, so we often, I think people look at the fact that we're a mega church and say, well, that's why they've got so many teams. But that's really not true at all. There are a lot of other churches who the percentage of their players, half of our players don't even attend Southeast, but one player may go to this other church over here, and we've tried to get a team started, but we can't, so they play with us. We are trying to break down the barrier of promoting within our own church. Because it's a mega church, they're very picky, or I shouldn't say picky, I should say they're very selective over what they allow to be communicated out, because they have so many different programs. It's tough for me to understand like the driving 6 hours. I hear you. I don't know. I don't know what to do with that.